Hello. How are we doing? So this is a bit different. So I'm not continuing with my Python learning at the moment, but there's a good reason. I want to research C# as a language, as does a lot of game development. It's very versatile. I know plenty of people who actually code in it, which is very cool. So before I go too full pelt with Python, just thought I'd check out C#. So all I'm going to be doing now, I'm just going to be, you can see my screen, I'm just going to research C#, see what books seem popular, what videos seem popular, are there any Udemy courses or anything like that. So if you have any suggestions on where I should start learning it, please pop them in the chat and we'll have a look. Let's just send a message. Get a picture here. Oh, it's dark. Let's get a camera picture. Let's treat ourselves. Here we go. I'm sending it to someone, I'm not mental. Just gonna chill out. Forward to Rich. Let's start with, let's do a proper C#. to check out. Podcast. Music's too jazzy, it's too cool. And I'm just dancing to it. Christ, that's wishy-washy, isn't it? Jesus. Khan Academy is too expensive now for a tutorial. How's it 2 likes? What's happened? Dee. Right, should we start? Let's start. Let's start. Right, let's start on Udemy because that's the first result. Let's see what they say. Preview. You can watch the preview too.
We would love to teach you to code a really fun way using Unity Engine to make 2D games. My name is Ben Tristan, founder of Game Dev TV. We genuinely make some of the most popular game development tutorials in the world. And I've teamed up with my friend...
Thanks, Ben. Hi, I'm Rick. I've been teaching people how to make games for more than 10 years. What I know is that it's really difficult to know where to start when you're learning how to program, learning coding, and learning game development. And what I can assure you, in this course, we make it easy as can be for beginners to jump in and learn how to code and to learn how to make great games.
Don't take our word for it. There's over 40,000 people have taken the time to leave a review for this course, which is amazing. Thank you to those people. And what's more, we're making it even better in the summer of 2018. We're upgrading the entire course to Unity 2018, so all the newest possible content. We have helped thousands of people make real games, and we want you to be one of those. So Rick, how do we do this?
Yeah, we're going to start with the fundamentals for C#, getting you up and running understanding things like what is a variable, how do you write a method, what are conditionals, how do we do if statements, right from the ground up so you have confidence with those foundations. We're also going to be getting in there and playing around with Unity so that you understand Unity, how does the interface work, what are the different aspects of it, just getting really comfortable in the engine. And the third pillar for this course is the game development, game design aspect of things. So we're going to talk a little bit about the player experience and how do you create something that's going to be enjoyable for someone to play when it's your game. So then
we move on to more advanced C# tools, just when we need them, so that your code can continue to read pretty much like English. Beautiful, clean code, simple solutions. We're going to take a deeper dive into Unity's features, again, as we need them to enhance their player experience, to enhance your learning, to increase the scope of the games that you can make. And we'll really start to think about the architecture of your solutions, how things fit together, how they are aesthetically, how they are functionally. So, Rick, by the end of the course, what can they do?
Yeah, by the end of this course, you will be a 2D ninja. You'll understand the foundations of programming. You know how to make an interesting game for players. And like the games that we've got on the screen at the moment, you'll be able to create these sorts of platformers, tower defense games, putting your own creativity to them so that you can really make them your own, stamp your own flair to them, and really flex your muscles as a game developer.
Oh, I'm excited to get going. So look, it really is a vital time to learn to code. So please dive in with us and we'll take care of you.
What do you reckon? Why should you?
We would love to teach you to code a really fun way
not the same
using
one.
Unity Engine to make 2D games. My name's Ben Tristram, founder of Game Dev TV. We genuinely make some of the most popular game development tutorials in the world. And I've teamed up with my friend.
Thanks, Ben. Hi, I'm Rick. I've been teaching people how to make games for more than 10 years. And what I know is that it's really difficult to know where to start when you're learning how to program, learning coding, and learning game development. And what I can assure you, in this course, we make it easy as can be for beginners to jump in and learn how to code and to learn how to make great games.
Don't take our word for it. There's over 40,000 people have taken the time to leave a review for this course, which is amazing. Thank you to those people. And what's more, we're making it even better in the summer of 2018. We are upgrading the entire course to Unity 2018, so all the newest possible content. We have helped thousands of people make real games, and we want you to be one of those. So Rick, how do we do this?
Yeah, we're going to start with the fundamentals for C#, getting you up and running, understanding things like what is a variable, how do you write a method, what are conditionals, how do we do if statements, right from the ground up so you have confidence with those foundations. We're also going to be getting in there and playing around with Unity so that you understand Unity, how does the interface work, what are the different aspects of it, just getting really comfortable in the engine. And the third pillar for this course is the game development, game design aspect of things. So we're going to talk a little bit about the player experience and how do you create something that's going to be enjoyable for someone to play when it's your game. So then
we move on to more advanced C# tools, just when we need them, so that your code can continue to read pretty much like English. Beautiful, clean code, simple solutions. We're going to take a deeper dive into Unity's features, again, as we need them to enhance their player experience, to enhance your learning, to increase the scope of the games that you can make. And we'll really start to think about the architecture of your solutions, how things fit together, how they are aesthetically, how they are functionally. So, Rick, by the end of the course, what can they do?
Yeah, by the end of this course, you will be a 2D ninja. You'll understand the foundations of programming. You know how to make an interesting game for players. And like the games that we've got on the screen at the moment, you'll be able to create these sorts of platformers, tower defense games, putting your own creativity to them so that you can really make them your own, stamp your own flair to them, and really flex your muscles as a game developer.
Oh, I'm excited to get going. So look, it really is a vital time to learn to code. So please dive in with us and we'll take care of you.
In this video, we're going to discuss what are variables, and we're going to be adding a couple of variables to our code. So let's start by defining variables. We can see that variables are like boxes. So here's a box here, and the variable's name is hit points, and it has been assigned 20. So there's a couple of statements here that we can make. Each variable is of a particular type, and I'll give you some examples of types in a moment. Each variable has a name, in this case hit points, and each variable contains data that we can use in other places in our code and throughout our game. And with our example here, we have a value of 20. So in this example, we would write this in our code as int, which stands for integer, which means it's a whole number. Hit points, that's the name that we've given to our variable, starts with a lowercase letter when we're writing a variable. Equals, now it's not equals, it's an assignment. You need to think of this as we're assigning whatever is on the right side is now going to be the value of the left side. So hit points has a value of 20 and then semicolon at the end. So our hit points box, our hit points variable, now contains the data of 20. So if we look at another couple of examples, we have float, which is a type. A float variable means that it has decimal places. It's a number with decimal places. The name is speed, so you can see our box here is speed, and it has been assigned a value of 3.8. That's the value that's sitting within inside the box. And if it's a float, we need to put an F on the end, and then semicolon. We can create a bool variable. Bools mean that something is true or false, and our bool of is alive is currently true. You can see is alive, and then the assignment inside the box is true. And the last example I've got here is a type string name. So the variable is called name. It's of type string, and we've assigned it as the data value of Rick. That's what name has been assigned as. So let's get tangible and put this within our code. What we need to do is jump back over in our script here. So just a reminder.
Okay, that sounds pretty good. Let's make a folder. Let's call it. C sharp. Oh crap. We'll remember that one. Okay, what else we got? So that was Udemy. Pluralsight. No idea what that is. Just read it. Let's have a look. Measure your skill to find out where to start. Get your free IQ. Oh my god, man. Don't stop. No. Free day trial, yeah, then how much is it? God's sake. £24 a month. Shoot out. Code Academy is too expensive now. Learn csharp.org. What's this? Get a drink. Right, what's this then? C# is a static programming language that lets you write code that runs on top of Microsoft.NET Framework. Static programming language which lets us write code that runs. Okay, C# has more features and capabilities than Java. Since owned by Microsoft, means you may find yourself paying money for your IDE. Throw it away. We'll be using this. Let's move this microphone. System console write line. Forcing to write lines in the output console. When writing a C# command line position. Okay, doesn't mean much to me. Writing web applications in C# is possible using ASP.NET Framework. Okay. Print hello world to the console. What? This advert is a ridiculous place for an advert. Code. Run. What? System console. Okay, so we'll change that to hello. Correct. Must define the types of errors before using them. To define a variable in C#, we use the following syntax. Just similar to, stop telling me it's similar to C and Java, it doesn't mean anything to me. Int, my int equals 1. Float, my float if. Okay. Defining a floating point number requires an explicit. Terrible tutorial, by the way. This is terrible. What you could, okay, well this is awful, so you're out of here. Nice idea, doesn't work. And C#, Microsoft have got some tutorials. C Sharp 101. Let's do some videos. Let's pause that for now.
Hey friends, I'm Scott.
And I'm Kendra.
And we're going to learn about C Sharp. This is our C Sharp 101 series. But before we even start talking about languages and syntax, we have to ask ourselves, why C Sharp? Like, what can I do with it?
Yeah, choosing a language is really important. And one of the things I love most about C Sharp is the beautiful syntax. It's all about that syntactic sugar. So you don't need to understand everything about the language right now. But when you want to scale up your designs and create some great architecture, C Sharp is a good choice for that.
Definitely. You don't have to memorize all the little details right now. And you also have a whole ecosystem that you can use. So if you find something that you want to do in C Sharp, you can probably do it. I mean, what can I build with C Sharp?
Definitely. So you might just be making a website or a console app right now, but if you want to scale that up sometime in the future, take it mobile, go AI, use machine learning, something like that, C Sharp can grow with you.
Yeah, it's one language for lots of things, whether it's a Raspberry Pi or an Xbox game or a website or just a little console app that prints out some text. There are really no limits to what you can do with C Sharp, and we're going to walk you through those things today.
Right. So this tutorial is going to go through web browsers, C Sharp language features, and then we'll graduate into using Visual Studio to actually compile C Sharp on your machine.
So let's start with Hello World in the browser right now.
Okay.
Hey friends, we're learning about C Sharp 101, and this is our Hello World video. You may have seen other video tutorials using Visual Studio for their code, but we're going to try something different, and we're going to do it in the browser. So what I want you to do is go to your browser and go to docs.microsoft.com, that's documentation for Microsoft, and click in Search. And we're going to type in.
Please say you've linked it. Let's see if you didn't link it. Docs.microsoft.com.
In C Sharp tutorial. Go directly to the C Sharp tutorial. And these are a series of tutorials, and we're going to walk through all of these today. We're going to go to Hello World, and it brings you to an interactive tutorial page. And when we hit Begin, over on the right-hand side, it says you can try the code in your browser. So I'm going to click Enter Focus Mode.
So as soon as you enter focus mode, an editor appears on the right-hand side of your browser. In this editor, you can actually execute the C Sharp code that's on the left side. So if you go ahead and copy the console.writeline statement into the .NET editor.
Okay, and I'm going to hit.
Let's go back.
And it brings you to an interactive tutorial page. And when we hit Begin and go to docs.microsoft.com, that's documentation for Microsoft, and click in Search. And we're going to type in C Sharp tutorial. Go directly to the C Sharp tutorial. And these are a series of tutorials, and we're going to walk through all of these today.
Okay.
We're going to go to Hello World, and it brings you to an interactive tutorial page. And when we hit Begin, over on the right-hand side, it says you can try the code in your browser. So I'm going to click Enter Focus Mode.
So as soon as you enter focus mode, an editor appears on the right-hand side of your browser. In this editor, you can actually execute the C Sharp code that's on the left side. So if you go ahead and copy the console.writeline statement into the .NET editor.
Okay, and I'm going to hit Control-V to paste.
Nice. And you hit the Run button on the right side. It can actually run that C Sharp.
Now, does C Sharp run in the browser? Is that a thing I'm going to see in the world?
So for this tutorial, yes. And we are working on a product called Blazor, which is actually C Sharp that executes with WebAssembly.
Cool. So C Sharp does run everywhere.
Yeah.
So I said console.writeline. What's a console?
So the console is what you can use to output strings, and you see the output window right below. So everything that you put in those little quotation marks, which currently say hello world, is what's going to appear in your output.
So I can change that, and I'll say hello friends and hit run again. And now I've changed and run my C# program one more time.
Yes. Right, so that's the simplest C# app, my first program that you can run in your browser. No setup required.
You have done it. You can put programmer on your resume now.
Yay!
So let's hit next and see what's next in our tutorial. So when you make a Hello World application, you have to think about variables, right? Now in this case, we've got hello friends inside of console.writeline, but we haven't declared any variables. You hear that term a lot when you're programming.
Yeah, so right now it has you declaring a string, a friend variable, and that name is Bill.
Okay, so I'm going to go and copy over the top of that console.writeline. I'm going to delete that. I'm going to paste in this new one. It's console.writeline again, and I'll put in Kendra, and I'll hit run, and now it says your name.
My name, Kendra.
So Kendra lives in the variable called a friend, and then I can use that as many times as I want.
So now let's change the variable again to say Scott.
Okay.
And when we run it as well, it now prints Scott's name. Next, we want to append hello to the beginning of the write line.
Thank you for your
All right,
one.
so I'll come down here and I'll say console.writeline, where I output a friend. I'm actually going to say hello. I'll put a space because I want a space between hello and Scott. I'll say
That's all. Is that all you're giving me, is it? You don't want to... Well, thank you. I grew it myself. See you later. Bye.
plus, and then a friend. So we're going to say hello, which is a string on its own, plus a friend, which we know right now says Scott. When I hit run, that works as well. So we've gone and just put two strings together, a string here and then a variable with a string inside of it.
Variable, and that name is Bill.
Okay, so I'm going to go and copy over the top of that console.writeline. I'm going to delete that. I'm going to paste in this new one. It's console.writeline again, and I'll put in.
And you're spending the time on Twitch liking beards. That's what I like to see. Commitment. I like it. Well done. I would like to hear you explain that when you go to college, though. Why are you so tired? I was commenting on beards on the internet. Sorry. Out here. Where's out here? I just have a username. I have no idea. Netflix is boring. What? You have all the Star Trek on Netflix? Dropping in at people's channels. Wow, that's good of you. Where am I on the beardometer on the channels? Am I higher? In Manchester. Oh, okay. Okay. So you thought you'd drop into me looking at C#? I mean, wow. You must be bored. Join yours and sort of leave quickly. Yeah, all right. Well, I appreciate you dropping by. I'll see you next time. Enjoy college.
Kendra, and I'll hit run, and now it says your name.
My name, Kendra.
So Kendra lives in the variable called a friend, and then I can use that as many times as I want.
So now let's change the variable again to say Scott.
Okay.
And when we run it as well, it now prints Scott's name. Next, we want to append hello to the beginning of the write line.
What?
All right, so I'll come down here and I'll say console.writeLine. Where I output a friend, I'm actually going to say hello. I'll put a space because I want a space between hello and Scott. I'll say plus and then a friend. So we're going to say hello, which is a string on its own, plus a friend, which we know right now says Scott. When I hit run.
So what's he done now? Okay. She just put hello a plus a friend. Okay, that's not hard. I can do that. Hello, space. The spaces count, apparently. Let's try that. Hello, Richard. Hello. Let's move the mic back out of the way.
Run, that works as well. So we've gone and just put two strings together, a string here and then a variable with a string inside of it. Now the next thing that we can do, which makes things a little easier, is a thing called string interpolation. Instead of saying hello plus Scott, maybe we could say it a little differently. I could say hello, a friend, and I'll put a friend inside these curly braces. Sometimes people call them mustaches. Now, why has this got a little squiggly here?
I think that's because it's not valid C#. So it looks like in the example we have a little $ symbol.
Right.
Now that actually signifies string interpolation is being used. So a friend, it will recognize as a variable. And make sure you add your ending quotation marks as well.
So I've got an opening quote and an ending quote. I've got an opening parentheses and an ending parentheses. I also used my $ like you said. And now a friend is our variable, and I hit run, and it says hello Scott. And for really long sentences, that's a lot easier than saying hello plus Scott plus last name plus this and that.
Yeah, it's another
Right,
tip of
okay.
how C# can be really simple to read. So in this video,
Well, simple for you, maybe. Okay, so what's he taking out? Let me just.
we went through Hello World. We
Where's
made
the
it a
stupid-
little bit more complicated
your
by using
Stupid Microsoft. Where's your stupid?
variables and appending different strings. And in the next video, we're going to dive a little
Plus Scott,
Oh.
maybe we could say it a little differently.
Apparently, I've lost the bar now. They're probably running it in Flash. I don't know.
I could say hello, a friend, and I'll put a friend inside these curly.
Okay, hello. So he's deleting. Did you get rid of the? Getting rid of that. And he's putting a friend. Oh, wrong way. Hello, a friend. Wow, it's making hard work of this. Oh no, it's because it has it on for me. So I still want the space in there. Hello, friend. Where's he putting the cut? Oh, right, okay. There. So what doesn't it like?
Curly braces, sometimes people call them mustaches. Now, why has this got a little squiggly here?
I think that's because it's not valid C#. So it looks like in the example we have a little $ symbol.
Right.
Now that actually signifies string interpolation is being used. So a friend, it will recognize as a variable. And make sure you add your ending quotation marks as well.
So I've got an opening quote and an ending quote. I've got an opening parentheses and an ending parentheses. I also used my $ like you said. And now a friend is our variable, and I hit run, and it says hello Scott. And for really long sentences, that's a lot easier than saying hello plus Scott plus last name plus this and that.
Yeah, it's another tip of how C# can be really simple to read. So in this video, we went through Hello World. We made it a little bit more complicated by using variables and appending different strings. And in the next video, we're going to dive a little bit more into strings.
Basic strings.
In our last tutorial, we covered hello world. Now we're going to talk a little bit more about strings. So, how do you think of strings?
Yeah, we said strings a lot. You hear that in programming. Oh, we got to string this, and attach this string to this other string. I think about it like friendship bracelets. Remember when you go and you make your friendship bracelet and you string
Yeah.
these different letters together. You take characters with your name, you put them onto the string, and then you get a friendship bracelet that says Kendra or says Scott.
Yeah.
That's how I think of strings.
And the little ties at the end can be the quotation marks.
I didn't even think about that.
I like
Yes,
it.
the little knots at the end are the quotation marks. That's a really great way to think about strings. So we're
All
going
right.
to talk about strings right now. So we'll switch back over to where we left off in Docs. When you last saw us, we were doing step 2 of 7 inside of docs.microsoft.com. I'm going to hit next. We're going to work with strings. Before we had said there was a variable called a friend, and we said hello a friend. But here we have something more interesting. We have 2 friends now, first and second. So I'll hit copy. And I'm going to paste over the top with, again, Control V, and I'll say Scott and Kendra, and I'll hit run again. All right.
Cool. So here we actually were able to use 2 interpolated strings. So first friend is the first variable that we declare as Scott, and second friend is the second variable that we declare as Kendra. And you can see in our output on the bottom that my friends are Scott and Kendra.
And these are strings with names. They're variables. First friend is the named string, and second friend is a string with a name. And then this string inside of console.writeLine is also a string. It just doesn't have a name. It's literally a string. And sometimes you'll hear people call that a string literal.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then we have the little $sign in there. The $sign is kind of cool. It makes it magic. You
It
said that
does.
word interpolated. I don't know what interpolated really means, but I do know that if I remove the $sign, it breaks my code. And if I go and say run, it'll just say, look what it does. It literally shows the string literal. But if I add back the $sign, suddenly that string means a lot more.
Definitely. So strings can also have a lot of different properties on them. So in our next example, we actually access the length property, and that's going to tell us how many characters are contained in this string.
So I'm going to copy that example, and I'll come over here, and I can add on to that. So I'm going to keep the first code that I copied from before. I'm going to add this code at the bottom, and you'll see, as Kendra just pointed out, first friend is our string, and dot length is a property of our string. So let's hit run and see what that says. There we go. The name Scott has 5 letters. The name Kendra has 6 letters. Cool. And it's also worth pointing out that if I maybe mistyped that, if I typed in something that's not length, not only am I going to get a squiggly, kind of like when you get a spelling error in Word, but when I hit run, it's going to tell you, oh, I don't know what length is.
Length.
Length. We have no length here.
That's not a property on a
No,
string.
silly. It's length. And then we hit run, and then we come back, and it works.
Cool.
Cool. Let's move to the next step and learn more about strings. So sometimes strings have leading or trailing spaces. That's an interesting one. Do you want to delete all of this code and replace it with this code?
Yeah, let's start over with a clean slate.
Okay, so I'm going to go and select all of that text there, and I'll hit delete or backspace, and then I'll paste in this text. And look at this string up here. What's going on here?
So yeah, it looks like it has an extra tab or a bunch of extra spaces.
Yeah, they call that
before
white
and after
space.
Hello World.
Yeah. I don't want that white space. And if I go and say run, oh, this is interesting. Look what happened here. They put a little square bracket. I could put even stars if I want to. I could say star, 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 or just some character. And they're doing that to show us a way to visualize the white space.
Yeah, so where it actually started and ended.
So there's nothing special about the bracket in this example. It's just them saying, here's a character that you'll recognize, and then your string that you want, and then another character that you'll recognize. So we can visualize that space. And then here on the next line, on line 4, we're going to say, hey, let's take the string called greeting and let's trim it. Let's just chop off. So what are we trimming? Are we trimming a number of things? No, we're trimming the white space. So we have trim start, trim end, and then trim. Just trim
So
generally.
just trim.
Yeah.
Trims all of it.
Right. So this is kind of interesting. It shows us that white space or spaces, and you said tabs, are a thing, that they really matter. Like white space and spaces matter. So sometimes you need to think about that when you're dealing with strings.
Definitely. So this can help you better format the string before you output it.
Now, strings have length, we talked about before. They have methods. In this case, we're actually calling a method. See how we said trim start, and then we had parentheses. The parentheses indicate that it's a method, right?
Yeah.
If I get rid of those parentheses and I try to run it, it's going to say, I don't know what that is. That's not a thing. If I put that back and I hit run, now it works,
Yeah.
right? And if I said dot length, that's not a method, that's a property. So we have to keep track of those things when we're doing this work. Here's another useful method of a string. Replace. Let's try that. So we'll paste that in.
Yeah.
Hello world.
So here it looks like we have a string that says hello world, and we want to write it out before we do anything with it.
Okay, so we'll
So
write
we
it
have
out
that
right
console.write line,
Right,
and
and
then
actually-
the next place.
I'll cheat and I'll do it right now.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
so that's what it looks like before we do anything with it.
Okay.
Now let's call this sayhello.replace. So we're taking the say hello string and we're replacing part of it, let's say the hello, with it should be greetings.
Okay,
So let's go ahead and write that again.
all right. Aha, so we said hello world, which was inside of say hello. We output it, that's that first line. And now we're saying, this is really interesting here, look. It said say hello equals say hello again, dot replace. So when we replace that string, I kind of imagine another string shooting out of the back of this one, and now we've changed say hello. So this variable, say hello, has different stuff in it now.
Yeah, and the calling replace on it actually searched for where hello exists in the original string and replaced it with greetings.
Exactly. And if I change that, I can say hello world becomes Kendra
World.
Right?
Ooh, I like the sound of that.
Yeah. So we can manipulate these strings, and again, the result of that replace comes out. We can see that again if we go and try these variables. If you want to make something maybe all caps or lowercase, let's go and take these lines here, and at the end of Kendra World, we'll go and say console.writeLine again, and we're passing in say hello to upper and say hello to lower. So I think I know what's going to happen when we hit run. Ah,
Ooh, so the first one's shouting.
yep. And
'Cause
that
it
one's
changed it to all
low
caps.
key. That'll be your album cover title there, the low-key, lowercase Kendra World. So this is interesting because we didn't actually change say hello. We didn't assign it to a variable. We didn't say hello equals say hello to upper. We just kind of changed it in place.
Right. So if you actually did a console.write line again for just
Oh,
say
that's a
hello
great point. Let's do
and
that.
print that out, you'll notice that say hello wasn't permanently changed. So it still has the capitalization that it had in the beginning.
That's a great point. So here we can go and see the state of our variable. And sometimes when you're just getting started, you're going to find yourself, console.writelining a lot, just to know what's really going on with your variables, which is cool. Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah.
So we've learned a little bit about strings. Let's take a breather, and then we'll go to the next video, and we'll get deeper into strings in C#.
Well, it's pretty heavy going, isn't it?
So we just learned about string basics. 2 upper, 2 lower, trimming it a little bit. Let's talk more about searching strings.
When you have a string, you might want to see if it has something in it. You might want to search that string to see if the string, your friendship bracelet, contains another string. So let's go and do this. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of Kendra World, sorry. And I'm going to
okay.
paste in our song lyric here. You say goodbye and I say hello. We can ask ourselves, do these song lyrics contain the word goodbye? And do these song lyrics contain the word greetings? So let's run that.
True and false are what it outputs.
Where did that
So
string come from?
I suspect that the first output was the result of the first console.write line. So what you have highlighted there, song lyrics.contains, it actually returned true because goodbye is indeed present in our string. But the second one, where it searches for greetings, it returns false. So what if we changed goodbye to greetings? in the original string.
Oh, good point. Let's do that. You say greetings, and I say hello. I'm glad that that's not how the song went.
Yeah,
We'll
that'd
hit
be.
run. Let's watch the output real quick. I'm going to hit run. It's swapped.
So now it's swapped
Ah.
because it can now find greetings and it can't find goodbye in that string.
Now, sometimes it can be a little confusing because we're saying console.writeLine and there's a function inside it. So we're doing a kind of a method within a method. I'm actually going to do something just to make a point, and I'm going to just cut that, and I'm going to say variable result equals, and then we'll say put result inside here. And this is just a reminder because we're talking about variables. We talked about strings. We talked about numbers a little bit. Here, that true or false comes out and lives inside of there, doesn't it? So if I hit run, I don't think it changes.
No, it doesn't. So it's still storing the same result that you get when you execute that small bit of code, that .contain statement, but it's storing it in results, and then your WriteLine is writing it.
And those are called Booleans. Boolean just means true or false, and then we'll learn more about those a little bit later. So you've got contains, and then you've also got things like starts with and ends with that you can ask as well. So I could say starts with goodbye. I know that it doesn't start with goodbye, but it does start with you. So now I have true
Now
and
you
true.
have true.
So you can play around with strings and learn all kinds of things and ask questions of strings to figure out what your strings contain, what they start with, and you can manipulate strings as well. All right, so you've made it all the way to the end of strings. We're learning about strings.
Yeah. So in the next video, we're going to cover numbers in C#. So we just finished the section on working with strings. Now we're going to take a look at integer math.
So I'm going to go back to my documentation site. You can see I've just completed the Hello World introduction. If you haven't, you should make sure that you go back and take a look at those videos and complete that tutorial yourself. We're going to move forward to numbers. This looks scary, manipulating integral and floating point numbers in C#.
It's not scary.
All right, I appreciate that.
Let's go ahead and begin.
So we'll hit begin. Remember to click on focus mode so that you can get your editor there. So
Great. So here we have a list of integers declared in C#. Let's go ahead and copy that into our editor. At the very end, we have a console.writeLine for C. So it looks like C is being calculated with the two integers above it, A and B, A being 18 and B being 6. So when those two are added together, that's how we define C. We get 24, and then we output that.
and that's also a nice reminder that console.writeLine can take strings and integers and all kinds of types. If you ever have a question, just console.writeLine it to see what's going on.
Right. And we mentioned integers, so you're going to be seeing a lot of integers. It's one of the fundamental math types in C#. So it represents an integer or a positive or negative whole number.
And we can apply, in this case, plus or addition, but we can also do subtraction, multiplication, division to these things as well. So I might go and just change line 3 and do something different, like times. So here we'll go and multiply them, and now it's not 24, it's 108.
108, which I totally expected because I did that in my head. So let's try out division.
All right.
So 18 divided by 6 is 3.
All right. So that works great. And of course, you can do multiple operations in the same line, but then you have to start thinking about order of operations.
Yeah.
So let's move next to the order of operations tutorial.
So many of you might remember the order of operations from math class. So basically, multiplication and division take place before addition and subtraction, that kind of thing. We reflect a lot of that in C#. So let's take a look at our examples. We have A plus B times C. So A and B are 4, and B times C, or C is 2.
So B times C is 4 times 2, and just like the order of operations in the math that you're used to, C# behaves the same way. So B times C, 4 times 2 is 8, plus 5 is 13. Oh, another way to look at this is that C# behaves the way you would expect it to when it comes to math.
Right, so if you're working this out on paper, it's the same thing that the order of execution would be the same in C#.
Right, but what if I want 5 and 4 to be added together, I can put parentheses around them or brackets around them and hit run. I'll get a different output because parentheses come first.
Makes sense.
Now look at this one. I could do all kinds of complicated stuff, mixing variables and numbers and order of operations all at the same time. Can you do that in your head? I cannot.
I would prefer not to,
I would prefer
but
not to. I would prefer not to because I have a computer for that.
exactly.
And there you go.
So everything in the parentheses were first and then followed by multiplication, division, and addition and subtraction.
Now, one interesting thing that happens that we'll talk about a little bit later is you might expect fractions or decimals or pieces of something if you do a division. Like here, we'll go and we'll say 7 plus 4 is 11 divided by 3. 11 divided by 3, that doesn't really...
So we know that won't come out to a whole number.
Yeah, will it? Well, hang on. 11 divided by... That doesn't seem right at all. So what's
No.
going on there? Integer division always produces an integer result, and that's kind of interesting. It's only giving you the whole part.
So the fact that my d variable is actually an integer, which, as we know, integers have to be a whole number, it now forces that result to be a whole number.
Exactly, because we basically shoved it into that. We boxed it into a variable called int. So int plus int divided by int is always int, and in this case, we lost information. So that's something for us to think about in another video.
So we just took a look at dividing integers and getting whole numbers, other integers out of that.
I want the remainder. I don't know where my remainder is. I won't be able to sleep until I know what 11 divided by 3 is.
Let's look at that in the next video, looking at precise integers.
Wow. That's cool, they've got it all.
into, if nothing else. Like, if you like sandbox games or big strategy
Okay, I'm going to stop there. So I'll carry on my research next time. Interesting, that's quite cool though. I quite like the fact that they've got these free tutorials. In fact, I should probably bookmark these, shouldn't I? Let's do a C# folder. Yeah, let's complete that already. Let's favourite that into C#. Then we'll save this. Exit focus mode. Introduction, begin. Save it right at the start. Cool. What's progress or something? Although I think this seems way more complicated to me. It really does. Okay, that's the end. Thank you. See you next time.